All right, I'm live. Finally, I did it. So, my name is Keyvan Davani. I'm the Total Connector, the host of the Total Connector show and the Total Bitcoin podcast show. What I want to do today is remind ourselves, why are we in Bitcoin? Why Bitcoin? What is the essence? What is the root purpose? Where are we? Where do we want to go? What's the whole purpose? What's the whole point of Bitcoin? So Bitcoin, I think it's really important to remind ourselves. Let me please just check the live stream on Twitter and Facebook. Yeah, there we go. All right. So again, what I want to do today is talk about AutoDCA with ethical, transparent, Bitcoin-only companies. So after talking with Obi Nwosu, the co-founder and CEO of CoinFloor, which I can really, to be honest with you, really identify myself with the project, with the transparency, with the ethos and philosophy of Obi and his company, because there's no crypto bullshit, no blockchain bullshit, no token bullshit or any other ICO bullshit that we've had in the last couple of years. And it's transparent, the fees are transparent, and the whole the value that they deliver to their existing and potential customers is really worth talking about and worth buying into. So, it's important to remind ourselves that Bitcoin is the one and only decentralized, permissionless, uncensorable, uncontrollable, absolutely scarce and purely digital money. It has all the monetary properties that we have always actually could have dreamt of, but which gold was and has never been able to deliver. Because first of all, gold is clunky. It's you don't know how to you would have to validate and assay the validity of gold every time. How do you transport it? And by the way, you cannot transport it via electronics or internet or what have you. And it's it has failed. I mean, looking back at the Executive Order 6102 in 1933 under President Roosevelt, it got confiscated, it got super centralized. And look at the not only hundreds of them, but not only hundreds, but tens of thousands of tons of gold probably. All the gold, most of the gold is in some huge vaults of the central banks. And so what we should strive for and desire is that many people as possible understand the essence, the root purpose of Bitcoin. Otherwise, we're not going to move much further. I mean, yes, we could move on, but it's just too slow. So it's really important to remind ourselves and all the people around us that we're trying to educate. What are we trying to achieve here? It's so it's, of course, it's separation of state and money, but it's also it means there could never ever be another intermediary or centralized failure. Such as looking back in history. So it's always the same repetitive pattern that we see in the monetary history, economical history. And unfortunately the encroachment on civil liberties has accelerated at such a incredible speed. The ever more execution and of coercive, aggressive, draconian measures by all the regimes, governments, nation states, with some kind of cheap excuses or artificially fabricated conditions with its called, COVID-19, coronavirus, or what have you. But it just, the whole fundamental structures of our system, would it be, the economical, the financial, the scientific, the media, the mainstream media, the educational, the medical, academic establishment. So they're all somehow super centrally controlled. And if you look at the roots, at the structures of the central banks and our governments, it's not our governments. We really need to think about, like, have we ever given our vote to centralized entities, to monopolies, to oligarchistic, monopolistic entities that have no, accountability, no liability, no transparency at all, no, no auditability. There's no real, checks and balances. There is nothing. I mean, it's when you look at the structures of the central banks in collusion with the governments and the nation states, they are totally untouchable. Politically, definitely politically untouchable. Legally not liable, and criminally immune. So I don't think that going to the voting booths every 3 or 4 years or whatever, every 4 or 5 years. I don't think we never intended to give our rights away, or our constitutional rights, our human rights, our basic existential livelihood rights. We never consented to being stolen from, economically raped, financially stolen from, and systematically manipulated and corrupted, and the whole system that we rely upon is a farce, is a real farce. It's grotesque. It is surreal. It's just beyond description. And I think it's time that we talk about the question of legitimacy of our governments, of the governments that we think we've elected, but we haven't. The central banks that are self-appointed, and that are that have been always there at least for 100 years, that have been financing wars, doing all the money laundering by themselves, but then blaming others, and being the instigators of all the anti-money laundering laws and KYC laws, and total surveillance and encroachment on civil liberties, and people being beaten down, arrested in their own homes. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And that's why I think it's not only important to auto-accumulate it, AutoDCA, auto dollar cost averaging constantly, regularly, whatever. I'm all with that. But we need to start preparing the very fabric of our society for a gradual and sudden breakdown of this, artificially created, kleptocratic, monopolistic, oligarchistic, whatever, criminal system. That we think it's, they're like, we often think that there are nation states and governments and this and that, and there are like borders, but actually the system itself is so super centralized that it's even beyond our imagination. So this is why I think it's so important to prepare this, especially in times of these where businesses are, there's an unemployment rate of at least 25 to 30% in the United States. We're already in the midst of a Great Depression. Police, executive organs, executive puppets of this fascist socialist, whatever, dictatorial or so-called democratic nation states, governments within the West, East, North, and South. It doesn't matter, right? As we can see, the data has been about the things that have allegedly happened because of Corona or SARS-CoV-2 or whatever it's called. I mean, by now I'm pretty convinced that this virus was definitely artificially created in a lab, because even the former one of the Nobel Prize winners of the HIV virus, I forgot his name, unfortunately. He said, and the article, was tried to be suppressed even on Twitter and other platforms, but he said that the virus cannot have been, created naturally. It must have been created in a lab, because you need molecular tools to create such a virus. Anyway, it doesn't matter whether it's where it came from, who did it, who financed it. Was it also the pharmaceutical with in collusion, with all the puppets, Bill Gates, Fauci, WHO, CDC? It doesn't matter, right? All the the whole corrupted medical academic establishment. At the end of the day, we need to focus individually and collectively with concerted efforts on the solutions. What are we going to do about it, right? So I think the more we tackle, we try to solve this problem at the root of at the root of it, and that is money, which controls everything, right? But because it is fiat money, the central banks, printing trillions and trillions and trillions, literal trillions and trillions of money. It's a debt credit-based system, and it's and if you look at the Cantillon effect, as you've already probably know and heard from other Austrian economists, podcasters, educators, the ones at the top, very interconnected with the top of the pyramid, they are the ones who benefit from the trillions and trillions of digital or physical fiat money, but because it is not, there's nothing to do with scarcity. And we left the gold standard anyway. The gold standard didn't work, so we need to focus really on the factual reality, on logical deductions, on rational deductions, on how do we solve this. And that's why not only me, but so many others like John Ballis, Daniel Prince, all these other educators, podcasters, authors, authors of articles, books, Kalle Rosenbaum, all these, so many other authors, Knut Svanholm, and all these other podcasters that are out there trying to at least try to. We're trying to trigger something and reach a bigger mass of people outside, preferably outside of the Bitcoin echo chamber. I mean, not with So I think what we're also trying to do is also to reach people, and I think we need to sometimes we need to get off our horses and get a bigger picture, like zoom out and really really comprehend the question: why are we doing this? What's the whole purpose? Where do we go from here? What are the pain points? What are the real needs, desires, wishes? What are the different spectrum of comprehension levels and comprehension spheres within humanity? And I think we need to not only on a comprehension level, but on a technical level, really break down things, and definitely, we need to improve vastly, by order of magnitude, the user friendliness, the user interface, user friendliness, the practical side of using these applications that are out there that we can use, right? So most people, and intelligent people I know, they don't even have the time to sit down for a week and set up a full node, and then and let not even mention the merchants, and which I really, this is my main focus now, is to have all this, especially the small merchants who there are many of them who already express the wish and desires to do this, but they don't have the time, they don't have the technical skills, the capabilities, the knowledge, the understanding. And if I need more than a week at least to turn my Casa 2 into a my node full node, and then connect one or the other, whatever mobile wallet or any other kind of application to my full node, I mean, people just don't have the time. There are people literally working every day their asses off, at least 5, maybe some people I know, 7 days a week. They don't have the time, the technical skills, the background knowledge. So this is what I propose. I wrote an article about it. I know it sound a little bit like a broken record, but I wrote tweets. I wrote long messages to people, to a BTC Pay server, to all these other open source projects, and say, hey, listen guys, I know you guys are, you're dependent on donations, on grants, on people like giving you money. So why don't we, do it in a fairly fair, transparent, ethical manner? We form special task forces, advisory groups, support groups, or whatever, multilingual groups in different languages, in different countries, in different cities, and these people should go to the merchants, right? And there's a need out there. There's a desire, there's a wish out there. There's a real urgent need out there in order to transition. Not that people are going to necessarily exclusively pay in Bitcoin, but I think preparation is everything. I think it's so crucially important that we facilitate the transition to a Bitcoin denominated local circular economy. And even if it's just a fraction of the clients, of the customers, of those potential and real existing merchants, small businesses, people who have a shop or whatever, like help them set up a full node, help them set up, connect the wallets, explain to them the applications, the apps, especially when the strike comes in the near future. Then the customers don't even have to think about, don't even have to contemplate about whether they should or not, whether they are interested in Bitcoin or not, whether they hate Bitcoin or not. They're just going to pay with this is how it should work then eventually. But after talking to a Rockstar developer, I assume he's the uncle of Jack Mallers, as far as I know, he said it should come in the very near future to European Union too. At least in the beta version. So once they have, once the merchants can give the opportunity to their customers to download the app, Strike or whatever, or connect it to another wallet, whatever, interoperable wallets maybe even, and people just without thinking, all right, intuitively, they just hand out, they just show their QR code, or they just show their QR code, the merchant scans it, and that's it. Transaction completed instantaneously, without intermediary, peer-to-peer, decentralized, self-validating. The merchant is super, instantaneously self-validating. They are their own central banks, self-sovereign, Bitcoin citizen, and the customer just pays, right? And eventually, it will become, the norm. It will become, especially when the merchants give their customers like 5 to 10% like discount, like, hey, you know what? I'll give you whatever 3, 5, 10% discount if you pay me with this app, with or without Bitcoin. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, but the merchant should then be able to decide, because still of the existing system, accounting system, tax reasons, whatever, to have that automatically converted into fiat, because so the merchants doesn't get into any kind of complications or troubles. So we can make it easier, but we need more concentrated, holistic approach to this. We need more communication, more interoperable communication, and cooperation, and we need more support teams, right? So if, and I, you know, I'm watching all this unfold, right? But it just a little bit too you know, just we're too much into our own Bitcoin echo chamber. That's why we need to get out of this Bitcoin echo chamber. There are people out there who don't even go on Twitter, who have a shop, who have a business, who don't have even the time, you know, to go on, you know, on the internet and read articles, listen to podcasts, even though they're, you know, a lot of them are already translated, for example, into German. But a lot of German-speaking people don't even understand. They hardly even understand English, or they hardly even read English. So let's make this as empathetic as possible, as compassionate as possible. And yes, and I'm totally, you know, for a ethical, transparent, fair compensation of these people who are working for open source projects. I think these people should be more supported. Support teams should be more available with their preferably live, personal, face-to-face interaction, like in Austria, you know, in Germany, in whatever country or whatever. But it should be multilingual support teams, and there should be a support package where people can whatever, zoom in, or via Zoom or via telephone, via whatever, and it should be sort of a step-by-step guidance, right? Because there are just so many trial and errors I can see. I can see all those questions popping up in Telegram groups, you know, and then you have to wait, it doesn't work, and just too many irregularities and anomalies. And I'm aware we're still in the beginning, but I know the potential is already here. It can be improved, dramatically improved. The whole process, the onboarding, the education, the support, the advice, you know, the advisory roles, you know, whatever. So after talking to Obi Nwosu of CoinFloor, you know, I also asked him about his opinion, about his thoughts. Like, what does he think? Is that should we only you know, concentrate on AutoDCA? And I understand, you know, the position of a lot of people such as Obi, but I think at the same time, because things are so accelerating on, you know, in a negative way within the, you know, nation states, and especially what the governments are concerned, the shutdown, the lockdowns, the economical destruction, the surveillance, the police enforcement, you know, the encroachment of civil liberties. I mean, where is our freedom? So I think this is why we really need to connect the dots, get in more people who can fill in the missing links, who can satisfy the real needs, desires, and wishes of existing, I mean, real people, whether it be the average user, customer, merchant, business, shop owner. At least we can transition them, facilitate them gradually, but then suddenly to a really Bitcoin denominated, permissionless, decentralized, uncontrollable, unconfiscatable, Bitcoin denominated, you know, localized, circular economy, right? Because it's about separation, money from the state. It's about derooting the criminal structures of the central banks, beginning with the Bank of International Settlement and the Fed and the European Central Bank and all the central banks that are totally immune, uncontrollable, unauditable, and, you know, unaccountable at all, right? So we need a money that is controlled by everyone and no one, actually. And that is what Bitcoin is, right? Because it is purely digital. It is pure, you know, it is created out of not out of thin air, but really because energy is put, a lot of energy is put into, and because it is, with its absolute scarcity, you know, set in stone, set into the roots of the code, you know, immutable. And that's what we need, right? But it has all the monetary properties that we could have ever dreamt of. Even the Austrian economies would admit that, right? It's divisible. It is fungible. We can enhance the fungibility and, you know, the privacy, and then someday even the anonymity. It is you know, portable. It is transportable. It is you know, it is internet native, and soon we're not even gonna need the internet. We're you know, we could just transact with with just a satellite kit such as Blockstream just brought out with a small satellite kit. But we're far from mass adoption right now. But eventually, when we could even be off grid, we might even not even need electricity. We just might need we could. It has already been tested, but not for mass adoption with radio signals and solar panels and a small satellite kit. So what do we need the internet for? What do we need electricity for? So we're really going towards this. But the reason I think I'm trying to emphasize all these points again is that this madness that is going on, the criminal madness, the corruption, the destruction of economies, the restriction of the drastic draconian measures that are being taken, the surveillance measures, the China, similar to China, all these systems with app tracking and surveillance and tracking and all this bullshit that's going on. I mean, it's just beyond imagination what's going on. The speed, especially with which is going on. That's why we. Let's just call it within the Bitcoin community, within the freedom community, within the libertarianism, within the technological and intellectual and economical, especially Austrian economical communities. We should somehow, find a structure and maybe even bring in, all these entrepreneurs, investors, and tell them, hey, you know what, you're going to even profit much more than you can even imagine. But if you just lower your time preference, not focus on on greed, like, how can I profit in short term as much as possible, but really develop an ethos, at least some kind of decency and principles of ethical conduct. And I know that all these entrepreneurs, investors, the macro investors, the ones who are building, such as Elon Musk, if we can, or Jeff Booth, all these people that are, brilliant author and brilliant entrepreneur and investor, and we can connect all these people together, the knowledge, the expertise, their multiplicator effect, whether it be, Joe Rogan or Jeff Booth or Elon Musk or all these people, who have a strong, followership, who have, a strong branding, who have a strong communicative skill. And bring them together with their resources, with their skills, with their knowledge, with the multiplicator effect, and really try to I really intend to empower and equip the people out there, who have small businesses, who are merchants, who have small, who have a small structure that. And especially in times of these, and start not only at the same time, yes, auto-accumulating, auto-DCAing, like buying Bitcoin as much as possible, but at the same time, slowly, gradually, and then suddenly really go into Bitcoin-denominated economy. It doesn't matter whether the long-term, path of Bitcoin is exponential increase of purchasing power of Bitcoin, so that's why the volatility doesn't really matter, because it goes into cycles, right? It goes into hyper cycles, what do we call it, stock to flow ratio, whatever, harder and harder, and every 4 years, as we've had now a couple of days ago, March 11th or 12th, whenever that was, the halving, the third halving. So the hardness and the scarcity comes into, expresses itself more and more and stronger, of course, and the purchasing power will, and because now more and more money is flowing into the Bitcoin space through whatever, because of mainstream, more and more, slowly but gradually, mainstream adoption, institutions, or Paul Tudor Jones now making himself, declaring himself as a Bitcoiner, sort of, or saying, this is the fastest horse, and now more and more funds, hedge funds, pension funds, maybe even, and laws might eventually be passed that facilitate the transition or the bigger investment of these pension funds and family offices and hedge funds coming more and more into the Bitcoin market, and that would mean a multi-trillion whatever fiat denominated Bitcoin market cap, right? So we are at the beginning, but we need, I think, preparation is everything, right? Prevention is everything, especially prevention of preventing the buildup of a fascist more and more freedom stealing system, right? So what are we trying to do? We're trying to create a structure, right? A structure on monetary level, economical level, financial level, scientific level, technological level, social level, structural level, architectural level, in order to become free, right? It's about freedom. It's about prosperity, abundance for all, right? I mean, the technologies that are out there already existing, that we can see visibly, publicly accessible, the patents that are out there. Just imagine it would, all these technologies, all these things that are under the control of the military industrial corporate complex. Imagine all these technologies with deflationary prices serving humanity. But that can only be achieved by order of magnitude with Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin is the root structure, the root key to this new paradigm shift, to this new monetary, economical, scientific, technological, social, and structural evolution. And education is really important, but we need to accompany this with a practical approach, right? People don't have the time. They don't have the resources. They don't have, the technical skills, the intellectual capabilities, a lot of them. That's why we need to make it as easy as possible. I mean, do you know how the internet works, how your engine works, how your car works? Not really. But I'm just saying the technology is already there. It already exists. We just need to make it a little bit more, practical. In its approach, with its hardware wallet, a mobile wallet, a full node, the connection between, the self-validating applications and procedures and processes. So let us work together, as Gandhi would say. Let us really work together in a holistic approach. We need to get over our human I don't know what to call it, negative traits and patterns and conditioning, and really get over this repetitive pattern, right? Of this, we need to go more into a more holistic, conscious, and practical approach, right? We need to think about the 99% out there. And what do they need? Especially people who can multiply the effect of this monetary evolution, right? So this is my rant for today. I hope you got something out of it, out of this message, and let's see how we can exponentially increase the effectivity, right, of all the things that are being built, that are being developed, that are being thought through, that are being educated on, in a possibly comprehensive and holistic approach, right? Anyway, thanks so much for listening. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe now to my YouTube channel, to my podcast platforms, and yeah, let me know your questions or what kind of guests I should bring on my Total Bitcoin podcast show. And I'll see you soon again. Thank you so much for listening. and make sure you leave me some kind of feedback, or and my email address is hello@TheTotalConnector.com. Thank you so much, and have a good day.